Wait,
it's
why are
not worth
you
my time
assuming
getting
that
into
my
it.
chat hates bi lesbians?
Oh, I'm not assuming that your chat does. I am assuming that there are random viewers here right now who are just watching who will throw a fit, because some people really will just throw a fit over anything.
Yeah. Yeah, they will. I'm noticing. Alright, so I've tried to record this a few times, to be honest. I thought this conversation was fascinating, and I think it has a lot to teach us about internalized ableism and how we treat other disabled people. And I think that yeah. And I think this conversation was incredibly brave of Keffals as well, but I'll get into that a little bit.
Wait, were you tagging Twitter trying to get my main banned on Twitter?
Yeah, because I'm sick of this kind of crap.
Holy shit,
Why
you
do
are such
I?
a little tenderqueer. Holy fuck. You're
I
literally
am an
like appealing
individual.
to Elon Musk to get a trans person banned because you don't like that they said a no-no word.
Not necessarily sure why I'm doing this, to be totally fair. I mean, I said it. It feels like bait, but I don't assume you're going to completely change your mind by any means. But when you put my public Twitter up on your live stream,
Mm-hmm.
it sent a ton of people my way. And sure, they're just sending trolling comments, and that seems like something light or maybe not that important. But it's lucky I've dealt with trolls before. I knew this was trolling activity. These kinds of things can end up sending people towards folks who are not as stable of places, who are emotionally having a hard time. It can essentially trigger extremely stressful moments they previously had in their lives. These kinds of things, it feels like you're doing a Project Pridefall just from the left, and I don't understand it. I think another thing that I wanted to say too, while I at least have, I suppose, my minor moment in the spotlight, is that I can understand maybe the initial thinking that this is just purity testing or anything else, but I'm literally a disabled trans person that had to run a blockchain and set up my account to keep people away from it all evening. I had to go out of my way because you did that, and it's not just trans.
So, I gotta be honest. The defensiveness, and I've listened to this probably 3 or 4 times now. The defensiveness that wells up in me every time they mention that I had to deal with this and lucky that I can handle it and that I've dealt with it before. It immediately feels like and sounds like a guilt trip. And I have to remind myself that I don't have to accept that blame that they may or may not be about to put on me. But let me tell you, as someone who is an abuse survivor, that tone immediately sounds like I'm in for it. And the patience that Keffals has here, I think, is pretty spectacular.
People facing horrible things in the world right now. I'm disabled, I'm trans, and especially the disabled trans community, we are not allowed to immigrate. Other countries do not take disabled people. If the worst happens, we don't get to run away.
Where do you live?
In the United States, almost no countries will take disabled people, even some refugees. It's messed up. It's something a lot of
Mm.
people don't. There's no real escape routes for us. And so when
I did not know that. I should have known that, probably, but I did not know that.
people are complaining about ableism in particular or driving a wedge in the community, it's because right now disabled people are already facing essentially their own genocidal actions through this pandemic, and people ignoring it and leaving us to die, leaving us without resources. And we're already here and ready to fight and are doing the work. And that wedge is being put into a community instead of building a bridge together so people can fight together. We're going to need everyone. There's no way that just a small group of trans people alone are going to win this fight.
Of
No matter
course.
how fight, we need all of our allies. And I think that's part of why people are upset. It feels like you are alienating large groups of people, be it through just trying to make jokes or whatever it is you want to say. It does hurt people, and things like this, again, I'm lucky. I've dealt with trolls. I've done this.
Again, the defensiveness that wells up in me. Like, even commenting on what he said, like, I have to remind myself that he is expressing valid lived experience.
This can have real life, really negative consequences towards people, especially those who are having mental health struggles. And that just
Right.
doesn't to me.
I'm sorry. I'm obviously sorry that you had to run a blockchain. I've had to do that myself when people are spamming death threats and revenge porn and dead naming me, because obviously I've had to deal with a lot of far right trolls and still do. What were the comments like? I can't imagine, coming from my community, the comments could be that bad.
Just no, not a trace of dismissiveness from Keffals, like, as far as I can hear in the voice. I mean, she's asking for information before making assumptions about what people have done. And the person she's talking to seems to have no such self-awareness.
I would say that the severity of the comments, to be honest, everyone's blocked now, and I'm not about to go and block everyone to read things off specifically. But it was enough to get Elon Musk's Twitter to suspend your account temporarily. And several others. I have the report sitting here because I sat there and tried to get rid of these troll accounts. These kinds of things, even if it's just a joke among the chat, the idea was to potentially trick people. It's literally like Operation Pridefall that 4chan extremely alt-right people ran to try to make our community look bad. Except
I
it's coming
feel
from
like-
someone who should know better.
I feel like
Like,
that's
I
a
get why
bit.
people-
I take it. I think she's about to say this, but it's incredibly, incredibly extreme. Like, she is being calm, she's being compassionate, she's listening, and the escalation is only happening on one side here.
People are mad.
Yeah, and I don't want to jump down your throat. Like, I feel like people think that I'm a lot less reasonable than I am. I'm more than willing to hear you out. I don't know if you're also aware that I am also disabled. Like, I have struggled.
I know.
And I don't know, she doesn't seem bothered, but as soon as she starts to talk about her lived experience, he immediately cuts her off.
I've been dug deep in the discourse at this point.
Yeah.
I've paid close attention. And to be honest, if you're saying that, I think that would just, to be fair, leave.
So they said they paid close attention. But who did they pay close attention to? Hasn't been Keffals' side of the story. You know, one of the things our brains do naturally is we only see the bad and we discard the good. Our brains are naturally dispositioned to do this. Our brains will lie to us and tell us that this is the way it should be when it's not. And when things like this happen, a few awful comments can probably feel like a million bad comments. I haven't experienced this yet, but I'm sure I will. Again, like, just a lack of, like, self-awareness. Like, I don't want to keep saying that, but it's again a lack of self-awareness.
Lead people to being more disappointed. Most of the disability activists that at least I'm following personally, I mean, you talked about earlier about these people who seem to only care about their own things. Some of the greatest names of folks who I could mention, I mean, Imani Barbaran, who is just fantastic, has been in a constant fight for trying to build this solidarity amongst other people because we need it. Right now, especially with the pandemic and people being stuck in their homes, this is probably something else most people don't know. But in the United States, there were these things called ugly laws. And I know this happened in other countries. Disabled people literally couldn't go out in public. It was illegal. That's because we are
This
ugly.
was something.
Oh yeah, no,
This was something that I did just learn about. Oh, that's right. I had this up the other day. Ugly laws in the U.S. They are not making this up, according to Wikipedia. Part of a series on discrimination. Yep. Various cities of the United States had unsightly beggar ordinances, in retrospect also dubbed ugly laws. The issue with these laws isn't that they're mean or not nice, that they're not civil. Like, these are all true things, right? The real problem is that how do you define ugly? You can't hold someone accountable for something that cannot be explained, that cannot be quantified. If you can't set clear expectations for a person, you also cannot hold someone accountable for being some way, like ugly. It's gonna mean something totally different to every person. That's ableism. That's what, that's the issue we're talking about here. This is an excellent example of, ways that ways that historical discrimination is not taught. And I mean, I learned a lot in school, but I didn't learn anything about this.
I'm witnessing right now with the rise of MAID in Canada, disabled people who can't afford to live applying for assisted suicide.
This is also, We're in Hell has an excellent video on this. You should watch that one, for sure. But this is also true. When your quality of life is so awful and you see no way out, just because you're poor, just because you don't have money, who cares why you don't have money? You suddenly just deserve to die, be thrown away. That's it. It's super gross the way it's being abused. Super, super gross. The overflow, we have no place for it from the healthcare system.
Exactly. I know the MAID thing is a severe issue. And that's, I think, part of why, despite however you want to use this language, alienating this large portion of the community, when, again, we're going to need all of these people together in this struggle, it seems like a terrible idea.
Okay, but I was very explicit telling people just to not harass people. Like, I don't want to harass anyone. But I do think it's okay if people have these, joke accounts and they're just interacting with each other in their own little part on Twitter.
That would certainly...
I mean, we should definitely take ourselves a little less seriously. Really, really should take ourselves a little less seriously. Twitter is not a serious place for serious people. We should all know that by now. If Elon Musk didn't prove that, I mean, I don't know what we would need. You know, I think a bunch of followers sending tweets and messages. I mean, it's got to be more serious than this to make this big deal out of it. It's just got to. It just feels like, yeah.
Certainly be one thing, but I mean, they literally came to interact with me on purpose. And I mean, you essentially encouraged them to. You threw my.
As soon as they switch into talking about lived experiences and talking about any experiences of the disabled community, any historical considerations, anything about how he felt or what he had to, anything about what they felt or what they had to deal with, she immediately this just gets quiet and listens. No dismissiveness regarding any of this at all.
Name up on a screen,
Right.
and did it yourself. So of course they're going to copy you. They're your fans.
Don't you think it's a bit bad faith, though, to compare?
Of course they're going to copy you. They're your fans. That's a big assumption to make.
What I'm doing to Project Pridefall, because it's like you're directly comparing me to Nazis. When they do this kind of stuff, they're trying to paint queer people as pedophiles. I would never do that.
What was your hopeful goal here?
Was my hopeful goal?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like the idea was, in your own words, to infiltrate the tender queer community and sow chaos. I mean, I can definitely understand there's discourse about things that are silly that we may not necessarily need to focus on, but
Of course.
purposefully trying to literally cause problems in our own community, even with people who are, you know, it's just sending lateral damage out.
Kettle Black, anybody?
And it's going to hit people like me.
I don't agree with
with
calling
trolls.
it harassment.
I mean, do you want a bunch of people coming to your accounts if you if you could avoid it entirely?
Right, I can't.
Coming with these kinds of random comments that are just dumb and awful.
Like, I really wish that I could
to deal with.
I really wish like the world worked that way, where I could be like, hey guys, my mental health not so great. Can you please stop tweeting about me today?
If only. If only.
Because that's not something I have the luxury of.
Well, of course, but well, yeah, no one does, and everyone would like the world to not be that way. But the reason I compare it is because this directly leads to people having to deal with that. I wouldn't have probably had to barely know your stream was really occurring or other things. Like, I had heard some people already like whispering about there's these troll accounts going around. So I tried to protect myself. My own name is on Kiwi Farms.
Of course.
I've dealt with this. I've dealt with a ton of community harassment. I worked in esports. Great place to be as a trans person. I didn't expect to have someone in the trans community literally put my name on stream and essentially paint me a target. And
well, I feel like it's okay for me
because
to...
I'm mentally prepared, and I've dealt with this. But you could...
That has to be like the third or fourth time they've said that. I mean, it's a bit of a martyrdom complex here, right? Like,
just do this without thinking, and this could result in someone who is not mentally prepared having a severely terrible time or something terrible happening. It's lucky it's me, and that's a messed up thing to have to think about.
Can you...
And
no, I totally get that, and obviously there are situations where people say they want to come onto my stream, and I take a cursory glance at their social media accounts, and I sort of parse based on how they communicate that there might be something there that's very wrong, and I decide not to do that. But obviously, that comes as a risk for anyone, regardless of platform size, right? Because we can't tell who's behind any avatar on social media.
And in that case, I would just say then, in the end, if everyone was just messing around with each other, it would be one thing. But this is also literally in a public forum. The idea that someone might fall for it was part of the joke. That's why I would
On a public forum. Yeah, absolutely.
compare it to Project Pridefall. Of course, it is not an exact Nazi action by any means, but the point was to make people fall for it. Because that is the funny, that is the ha-ha. And people are going to use that ammunition against our own community. It makes it feel like people who do genuinely use these things, like, or have neo pronouns, or use these context clues in conversations because it helps them, it makes it feel like they are being belittled. Because to be real,
Right.
that was the joke.
I
And
mean,
that's why people are
I think
hurt.
another thing that's like really disingenuous. Okay, I mean, one thing is that I feel like it's weird to call what my fans did harassment because it seems like it's more of a minor annoyance than something that is actually severe. Like the kinds of harassment I get where people are constantly telling me to kill myself or posting doxing information or revenge porn. Like that's like some of the stuff that I'm constantly dealing with, and obviously something that I would ban people from my community for if they ever engaged in. But also with Project Pridefall, that was done anonymously, where what I did was part of a bit that was done on a live stream, so literally anyone could see what was happening.
I would say two things then. One, the average everyday person is going to see these things as harassment because they don't deal with it every day. It doesn't matter if their experiences aren't as bad as yours. Having been on the end of death threats, I don't know if you know about the Smash Brothers community and all of their sexual assault allegations, but I broke that 3 years as news before anyone cared or took action. I got death threats. I was blacklisted from the industry for 3 years. It was awful. I've dealt with the worst end of things, but I don't need a whole bunch of trolls showing up in my comments either way.
No one does. But like no one does. They act like they're talking to somebody who sat on their stream and said, "Hey everybody, go harass this person until they quit Twitter." I've heard no indication that this is a thing.
Who needs that? I get why
Right.
people see that as harassment. It may not be as severe as getting death threats, because again,
Of
lived
course.
it, done it.
Of course,
it's
but I feel like
still harassment.
when you call it that, when you're painting it with the same brush, it makes it sound more severe than it is. It makes it
Then what do you call it? Just
annoying.
trolls? I mean,
Yeah, I don't think that
then
trolling
why
is
annoy people on purpose? I
is
mean, is
trolling
that
inherently
fun?
harassment?
This like intent's gonna start to come up a lot. And you keep in mind, like, we don't ever know anyone's intent. We can't ever. We can't know for sure. We can guess, but we will literally never know for sure what is in someone else's head. Ever. And so there's a lot of accusations of intent without, as far as I can tell, any evidence that this is anything but manipulation. A manipulation tactic to make her sorry and act the way that they want her to.
I honestly, for the most part, kind of.
Because I see trolling as an art form. There's a lot of creativity that goes into trolling, as long as it's not directly hurting people.
It's true. I mean, it's just so true. I wish that someday I could be witty enough and bold enough to troll well. I mean, she's absolutely right about that.
And as far as I've seen, no one got directly hurt.
You know, and yeah, again, Twitter is not a serious place for serious people.
By what I was doing.
I mean, heard is other than just running a blockchain, I also had to go and individually block several accounts that continued to follow me. It
So
took
you had
3
to
or
click
so hours or more out of my night.
How does it take hours or more of your night to click 3 buttons?
Because that's how long it kept happening. People, after seeing you make the
The bottom line is that these are all valid concerns. All the feelings, all the, like, this is all valid. But this is where it becomes, what do you want from me? You want to just keep telling me about your pain and suffering? I mean, that's, if you're not trying to accomplish anything, you know, Keffals is not this person's friend. You know, Keffals has not agreed to take on any of this emotional burden. And this person, it feels like someone's thrusting it upon you when someone talks to you this way. And, I don't know, it feels pretty gross.
comment and laughing kept showing up. And I mean, if you want the definition of trolling, I mean, it's Urban Dictionary, so you know, I'm not going to say it's amazing. The art of deliberately, cleverly, and secretly pissing people off. The point is to make people angry and feel unhappy. And isn't that kind of the goal of harassment? To make people feel unhappy? To take that time out of their day to hurt their mental health in some way?
Hold on a second. I just want to go back to the tweet and see.
Because, I mean...
I mean, I can relate fully. Like, Keffals wants information. She wants to make it right. Obviously, she just the patience of a saint, I swear.
I don't know. Maybe this is PR talk, but to me, harassment is just unwanted behavior that makes people feel uncomfortable. And
Absolutely not. I mean, again, like, it's just such a broad definition. You say things that hurt people. Like, what does that mean? What level of responsibility does everyone else have for one person's feelings? I mean, and this is the whole point. This is the whole, like, if these things make you feel bad, valid and understandable. But maybe it's not because something bad happened. Maybe it's because you had a response that, and you need to be the one to regulate your own emotions and soothe yourself. And whenever I hear someone talk to me like this, it feels like they want me to regulate their emotions for them. That if I would just behave, they would not feel bad and their life would be great. I don't know. Pretty gross.
And it was annoying because I got comments on just my main tweet. I had tons of accounts that were randomly following me, so I had to block them and get rid of them because I don't want other people randomly in my community getting the same kind of treatment because I'm not being aware.
I just went on to the tweet that you're talking about. The one where I replied, right?
Yep.
And
probably.
Like 99% of the comments are actually people harassing me and telling me to eat shit, calling me a cunt.
Okay, let me.
What did I say about a few bad comments taking over the way we think about things? I mean, Keffals is doing the right thing here. She's looking for information. Like I said, she wants so badly to take accountability. Like, she's looking for anything. And as far as I remember, they don't come up with anything either.
Let me pull this up because I haven't. Maybe I have some other people blocked too, but I keep a pretty extensive block list. Let's see.
Like, a pretty extensive block list. Can you, like, I get it. Okay, you have to have a block list. You have to protect yourself. If you can't handle certain things, people saying certain things, or certain people, block them all you want. Absolutely. But when you filter out that much, that many perspectives, I'm not surprised that this person doesn't seem to have more self-awareness. Because I feel like they have filtered out a huge amount of input that they could be using to navigate the world and their relationships with other people. And yeah.
I
mean, I see a couple things, but again, it's probably just because I keep
of course.
pretty
Like I see the one
list.
I see this one that's obviously one of the fans of the stream, where they just said, "Thank you for bringing attention to this. I literally had to create a new account due to bullying from her sicko fans. She gives real trans people a bad name /SRS."
Quite a few of the accounts are banned because I asked friends to help make sure they were deleted. I got some private messages too, but I mean, that's an instant block and delete kind of thing. I don't.
Yeah, it's
I'm
just
not gonna
like.
waste my time keeping receipts for random trolls. But
I mean, of course. I mean,
I'm experienced and know how to deal with this.
It's just kind of like.
What if I had been one of these people that you're saying doesn't know how to handle things or do stuff?
Again, gauging the irresponsibility or wrongness of the act based upon, you know, it could have been someone that couldn't handle, like, these are obfuscations that we don't even need to be able to make these decisions about what is okay to say and not.
Stuff. And all of a sudden I have a ton of trolling people.
Okay, but you're over exaggerating the extent of this. Like I'm seeing like 3 fans and then the majority of the comments are telling me to eat shit.
The idea of harassment is something that makes the person who is receiving it feel uncomfortable. It doesn't have to be being told eat shit and die for it to make someone feel uncomfortable. Just
so
because it is
by that
not
definition,
as you're dealing with.
By that definition, weren't you harassing me by responding to me on my Pick Crew account because it was uncomfortable that you were trying to engage with a community in-joke? Or like all of the people tweeting about me, wouldn't that also be harassment? I feel like defining harassment as something that simply makes you feel bad is kind of...
Ableist. That, I mean, it is just too vague. It's too vague. What does that mean? This is why people like me have trouble navigating the world. Because no one understands why they feel bad. They can't tell us why they feel bad. And they just say we made them feel bad. That's it. Like, you have to give more.
That's such a broad definition.
As a disabled person who has autism, I had people talking to me about their turbo autism.
Which is why this whole thing feels so gross.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also autistic. I was the one who made the turbo autism comment.
You weren't the only one is the problem. Just because you can't see a lot of them now, a ton of accounts ended up getting banned and suspended because I had to ask friends to start helping me report people. I got a lot of people bothering me. The reason it wasn't just run a quick blockchain and this should be done, which I did and it helped a lot, is because people then realizing they were blocked made more accounts, kept being a pain. And again, it's not the same as receiving a death threat. I get that, but it's still incredibly annoying. It is a huge inconvenience. I had to deal with your fan base being...
And now it's like an inconvenience. Come on. Like, we got it. You know what I mean? Like, we get it. Yeah, it sucks. It does. It sucks.
Sent to completely bother me just for the fact that I'm
I
here
mean-
and didn't like the idea of what's going on.
I feel like it's wielding identity politics like that is kind of disingenuous by saying, like, I am a disabled person who has autism, when a very large number of people in my community are autistic. And I feel like they should be allowed to express that in ways that differ from what disability advocates consider the norm.
If they want to, that's fine. Do they need to do it while specifically trolling me and other people?
But didn't
People
you
can do
who
things
engaged first? Was it you or me? I'm pretty sure it was you who engaged first.
I had made a tweet because I did not like your use of the R slur in streams.
Okay.
That's what it was. That's it.
Okay. I mean,
And
you're-
in the end, it's
Yeah.
not necessarily just that it makes someone uncomfortable, it's the intent.
Or I said the intent. Like, how? Look, from where? What context gives you a negative intent?
It's just like when you say those slurs, it's one thing to reclaim a slur. I've done it myself on my own Twitter. I'm not going to sit here and say that that's not possible.
right?
But when you use those slurs as an insult towards someone, saying that this makes them a worse person, you are perpetuating the whole reason it's a slur in the first place. It's not reclamation at that point. And I think, yes, there's going to be some people who refuse to have
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a gatekeepy attitude.
nuance in any way about
No,
this.
of course. I
And
just
I get that. But those folks, that's a reasonable complaint. These are words I've had thrown at me.
I've had the word
I
retard
don't-
thrown at me
Totally reasonable. 100% reasonable. 100%.
too since childhood. I'm aware of this. You know?
Yes,
I know what
and
it's
these
like
words
to
are used specifically to still create real life damage to people. And even if they're Nazis and they're
I mean,
really shitty people,
no one who's
we
saying
don't have to go there.
no one
'Cause
who
we
is
don't.
saying retard today is using it to describe people with intellectual disabilities. That would be like saying everyone using the word stupid or lame are referring to people who are deaf.
Yeah, oh man. Language changes, and it's okay to let language change. Words don't hurt anybody. Like, the words themselves, words don't mean anything until they're in context. Without context, like, what does the R word really mean without context? Not much. It has other definitions. The word is not the problem. The problem is how the word is used. And I think it's no longer used that way. Absolutely. Even 20 years ago, it had already changed, I feel like. And it's been a while, and we haven't made a lot of progress since then. But I remember even in high school, like, I used it, like, I said, I'm, and I got yelled at by a classmate who has a disabled brother.
Or intellectually disabled.
I would say words like that while I still try to remove them from my own vocabulary, because to be fair, I've just seen things hurt
Of
people
course.
and I would rather be kind. One is considered literally a slur. One is not very far removed from things. But that's all I did was post that. I didn't care for that.
So I guess
different
why
people
would
can
you
have
call
different
out
opinions.
one but not the others?
Even if they're Nazis and they're
I mean,
really shitty people,
No one who's
we
saying
don't have to go there.
no one
'Cause
who
we
is
don't.
saying retard today is using it to describe people with intellectual disabilities. That would be like saying everyone using the word stupid or lame are referring to people who are deaf or intellectually disabled.
I would say words like that while I still try to remove them from my own vocabulary.
And that's how I feel about them too. I spent my whole life trying to not say the R slur. You know, I do try to change my language very much. But that was something that was abused into me. That's the mask. It's a... Watching every word you say is such a giant burden. That mask is a heavy, heavy, heavy one. And it's imposed on us. We're traumatized. And then we tell other disabled people that they should also do this to themselves. Because it could, like...
Because, to be fair, I've just seen things hurt
Of
people,
course.
and I would rather be kind. One is considered literally a slur. One is not very far removed from things. But that's all I did, was post that. I didn't care for that.
So I guess
different
why
people
would
can
you
have
call
different
out
opinions.
one but not the other?
I have in the past. I know that not everyone is that ideologically consistent, but
Right.
I'm
And
not a
that's kind
fan.
of...
And heck, I make those mistakes myself. I think one of my first tweets, I had a slip and then I deleted it to reword it because I didn't like that I had used something that didn't feel quite right in making that exact complaint. It happened.
So if I can do it, you can do it. I mean, that's the whole tone. The whole attitude. That's why, from the very beginning, I was picking up on that.
Happens. I get it. No one is perfect. But this is like a repeated thing. But that's all I did. You stumbled.
Like, okay, it's a repeated thing. Fine. If you don't like it, disengage. It's a word. Keffals isn't a Nazi, advocating for R slurs to be put in camps. Like, this is a fellow disabled streamer who doesn't think that word is dangerous and doesn't use it in a dangerous way. How... What more can you ask for? If you don't want to say the word, don't say the word. If you don't want to hear the word, don't be in places where you might hear the word. But no one else is responsible for your feelings and your trauma. You're responsible for those things. Other people can consent for you to put that kind of burden on them. But you can't walk around treating everybody like they should feel bad because you feel bad.
Stumbled across my tweets and then decided, okay, troll account. And that's when I figured out, okay, this is a troll account. This is going on. I started talking about it. And I mean, I know it doesn't seem like it matters that much to you, but I mean, it literally breaks terms of service on Twitter. Like, you're making jokes where the intent in the end, no matter like if it was just to have fun or do whatever, the intent is that the butt of the joke is that people with neo-pronouns are worth making fun of. People who need these context clues and indicators are worth making fun of. That these aren't legitimate things that anyone could need or use. That these people are a lesser. When you use the term genderqueer the way you do,
Yes.
it feels like you've just created a way to insult your own community, a way to make a word so that if anyone has a complaint against you, you have something where you can be like, they're just a this, and throw it off. It makes it so it's almost impossible to have these real conversations because, I mean, I was getting it in some of these private messages and other things, people just saying I'm a stupid genderqueer, and that's annoying.
Yeah, I mean, I
How in
definitely
the world
think
am I
that
supposed
Twitter
to
is
do
not
anything in that
a
way?
very conducive platform to actually having these kinds of discussions, which is why I try and actually bring people on stream. Some people see this as me trying to, like, monetize the discussion, but the truth is I actually make significantly less money having these kinds of conversations as opposed to just streaming on my own. But I have a hard time understanding context on Twitter because there's no way for me to read tone in what people are saying.
I mean, it's just such a classically neurodivergent trait. Like, yes, exactly. The amount of times that I've misunderstood what people were saying in real life without context, and then you put things in text. You know, the more and more our conversations go from face to face, seeing people, to text. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of some text conversations. Do not call me, I will not answer. However, people like us need context clues. We need them. We don't get them like other people do. It's not intuitive for some people. It's just not.
Just like that people are constantly
then
mad.
I absolutely have to point this out then, the irony of the situation. That's what tone indicators are for.
Yes, and please
And
use
you just
them.
sat there and made fun of them. You made fun of them for some people who deeply need them and they help.
It's not
It's
making.
something
No,
that I
I
should
feel like you
probably
don't
use more.
understand the context of it. It's not.
I was watching
It's not
your stream live.
right. Do you want me to
I saw it.
explain?
The point. I don't need it explained.
You don't
the
need.
butt of the
This person is not receiving any feedback from outside of themselves. No, they don't think they need it explained, but they do. This again with the, our brain lying to us and making us paranoid about seeing a few bad comments. Like, this person is not taking into account what other people are saying at all. They don't care. This is from the beginning. When someone uses this tone, that I know from experience that this is where this is headed. They just want you to feel bad. That's it. They don't, I mean, they don't want you to say a word, and they want to, but they want to change your behavior by making you feel bad. That is abuse. That is 100% abuse.
the joke.
So you're
in
not
this
willing to actually hear me out.
situation,
The butt of the joke is pointing out logical inconsistencies.
Then point out logical inconsistencies.
I was.
That's not what it feels like to the people who are using this, who use these things seriously. Because to be fair, I should probably use context indicators and things like that more myself. I don't use them. I can admit it, because again...
Yeah, but she's a fellow disabled person asking you, really? Ugh.
personal growth. But you call these people tenderqueers, you make them an enemy of your community, essentially. These are the bad people who are doing queer the wrong way. Act like them because
She's not the one saying that. They are.
this is funny, this will show how stupid they are. And there I am using that word. Again, yeah, because people make these mistakes, but that's the point of what's happening. That's how it is read by people. That
Right.
You think these people who have neo-pronouns, who use these indicators, are lesser than you because you have villainized this term tenderqueer in your own community and have essentially told your fan base, these are the bad people.
I feel like-
these are the bad queers.
Am I not allowed to make criticism? Because that's because
think-
it's kind of what it feels like. It's like equating criticism with harassment.
It is possible to make
Which are two very different things.
criticisms against these kinds of communities. I mean, I think people make valid criticisms against the folks who try to start discourse about bi lesbians and things like that all of the time. We have plenty of, and for anyone in the chat who wants to throw a fit, we have so much historical context for that.
Wait,
It's
why
not
are
worth
you
the time
assuming
getting
that my
into it.
chat hates bi lesbians?
Oh, I'm not assuming that your chat does. I am assuming that there are random viewers here right now who are just watching who will throw a fit, because some people really will just throw a fit over anything.
Yeah. Yeah, they will. We're noticing that.
I get that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make up a term for those people specifically so we can just blow them off. I'm not going to tell everyone these are just the tenderqueers. You don't have to listen to anything they have to say. essentially only listen to what I have to say. My way of being queer is right. That specifically denies all
Okay.
discourse essentially.
I mean,
from
that's
happening.
not what I said, or even how I define genderqueer.
The othering of people like that, by setting that up, by creating these kinds of terminologies,
Right?
this is what far-right movements literally do. That's why
Every-
people don't like it, and it feels
Every
off.
movement makes up terms. Like, is it far right when trans people call each other transmedicalists? Because that is also an othering term.
I would again say that intent is an important part of this.
So you're saying that I'm
It would be
intending
like
to be far
saying-
right?
No, what I'm saying is we call people TERFs because they're TERFs. We call people transmedicalists because they're transmedicalists. Tenderqueer is such
We
a
call people
vague...
tenderqueer because they're tenderqueer.
Tenderqueer is such a vague term that your fan base has taken it to be whatever they want, despite your direct definitions. Because that's what I had to deal with last night. I don't know if you consider me a tenderqueer by whatever your standards are.
Yes.
But that's what was
Because
decided.
you, in the conversation with a disabled trans person in a chat full of disabled trans people, you tried to use I am a disabled trans person as a qualifier. And I think that's a manipulation of social justice rhetoric that doesn't actually help your arguments.
Correct. Correct. From the very beginning. I think my favorite part is that she left them like so much rope to hang themselves. So much rope. Like they tied it the whole time, and just that rope is just made of hypocrisy. And just tied it. And you know, that's
I am trying to use that to explain that I'm coming from a place of experience. I mean, I live with this. I'm not just some random person on the internet who's complaining. I mean, and literally directly, I'm here because of your actions severely kind of fucking up my whole night, to be real, because I had to sit and deal with that.
I can definitely relate to this. It's a different scope, but I understand. But I'm glad, though, that fortunately, my community is a lot nicer than the people who are currently mad at me.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure. Because you said that they...
I mean, she asked for receipts. At least as far as I could tell.
They didn't send you any death threats.
Complaints, and to be fair, I've made the same complaints that it feels like the same kind of nonsense under different management.
But you
Because it
said that
kind
you
of
didn't get any
does.
death threats.
This time?
When
Do
was
you
the...
know that none of your fan base has done this to other people?
Do
Like,
I
you
know that none of
created
your
this group-
followers are people who send death threats?
You can't prove a negative. You can't prove. Of course, she doesn't know that none of her.
Threats to me? You can't qualify
No,
that
but
without
I'm not
evidence.
making a specific term like tenderqueer and saying these people are essentially the enemy. Let's go troll them and make fun of them. Won't this be so funny if they fall for this and think this is real? This is going to make them all look really, really bad. Mm-hmm. And that's what you did. I mean, right? Wasn't that kind of the point? Was to make those folks look bad, look like they're nonsensical, doing that whole thing? It's not really a debate. It's not breaking down points.
They don't really
The whole
need my
point-
help doing that, though.
But you chose to create what you called gay ops to do it anyway.
Yes.
So why? If you were such a fan
no,
of
I mean,
debate
you
in
wouldn't
the
let me
first
actually
place-
explain, because there was a reason all of that happened. Like, the reason that was happening in the first place is because I wanted to shift attention back onto me so people would stop talking about the Twitter space and would stop calling my friends Nazis for pushing back against transphobes. And it worked.
Is that really a good thing? I mean, you threw a ton of people under the bus and directly affected other people to do that. I mean, again,
Well,
I'm just
I mean-
one person. I get it.
Right.
Maybe I'm not important in the grand scheme of things, but I have to deal with this. I had to deal with those people.
Right.
So you do too. Like, I don't know. It's gross. It feels icky.
It
But
was more than
it's
annoying.
honestly incredibly insulting to me that you were trying to conflate having people asking you to use tone indicators with getting death threats. And then trying to imply that I can't prove that my fans never did that. Like,
I have repeatedly said that these are not exactly the same things. They are still a form of harassment. The intent was to inconvenience me, to make me feel like I am lesser because I care about these topics. A lot of harassment, again, if it's not just okay making someone uncomfortable, it is the intent. The reason I am putting out posts and complaining about your behavior is because any attempts to have called in to do things politely, to try to do anything through back channels, don't seem to create any form of change. I don't want to have to send a bunch of people after you. I know you're probably getting tons of trolls because I'm blocking them when they come into my own comments. I don't want to deal with those kinds of people. I know they're disingenuous, but there's a lot of people who genuinely care about these things. They're not just saying these things because they want to be social justice warriors or
oh,
get
wait
clout
a
or something
second.
like
You
that.
were literally tagging, like, quote tweeting Aaron Reed and, like, snitching on me. Like, tattling
Yes.
to mom. Oh my god.
Honestly, yes. Because these people are your friends and they keep defending your behavior that is hurting people.
I
that
didn't
has
hurt you.
real
You're
life
literally being a
consequences.
fucking pussy about this. You're literally conflating death threats with people doing like the most lukewarm trolling I've ever heard of.
The last few minutes ago, I said these are not exactly the same things.
But
I
earlier
mean,
in the
come on.
conversation, you tried to say, like,
Because it
can
is
you
a
prove it?
form of harassment. The
You
intent
defined
is
harassment as
specifically-
anything that makes you feel bad.
Harassment is doing something with the intent of making someone feel uncomfortable on purpose. The whole point of that, of your followers and your fans deciding to come and leave these comments, sure, they're lukewarm, whatever,
Yeah.
was to make me feel uncomfortable and give me a hard time. And you put my name on stream, you showed it to everybody, and did it yourself and essentially encouraged people. I wish I had the full VOD, but I know that, again, I was watching this live, so I have the full context. You had to delete that VOD because porn accidentally showed up on stream, which
Based. 100% based.
is whatever. I'm not using that as an argument. I get it. Things happen.
Right.
But
Yeah.
you are essentially encouraging people, go make these dumb comments. Go inconvenience this person. Because I think the stuff they're saying is stupid. It's not making arguments. It's not debating if that's apparently important to you. It's
Of course.
just go be rude to this person for the sole purpose of what? I mean, again,
already told you.
inconveniencing me, making me feel like crap. I mean, like, if that's the point, even if it's not a death.
I mean, even if Keffals is like in the wrong here, which I don't think she is, but I also didn't see the conversation that happened on Twitter. Even if she was, it's still a completely disproportionate. But like, she's not the enemy. Like, these people don't attack the right. They attack us. Like, it's not like they attack both.
Fred, what was the point of it?
What was the point? I already
did sending
answered
your
this early
fan
in the
base-
conversation.
Is sending your fan base directly to harass me, one person.
You weren't harassed. Like, let's be real here. You did not experience harassment.
Fine, troll
even
then. If
yeah.
you don't want to agree to my definition, how in the world does that help our movement in any way whatsoever?
Wait, were you tagging Twitter trying to get my main banned on Twitter?
Yeah, because I'm sick of this kind of crap.
Holy shit,
Why
you
do
are
I-
such a little tenderqueer. Holy fuck. You're
am
literally
an
like appealing to
individual-
Elon Musk to get a trans person banned because you don't like that they said a no-no word. How fucking thin-skinned are you? You're appealing to a
even-
transphobe
the
that wants us
reason-
dead to have me banned from a platform because you have a personal gripe with me.
The only reason that I took to doing that is it is a far line too far to, again, literally
You made me do it. You made me do it. These are red flags for abuse. If you hear someone talking to you this way, you should be concerned.
Send your fan base directly to troll me and be jerks on purpose.
You are like the people who lived in Nazi Germany and snitched on their Jewish neighbor.
It's okay to be sensitive. Being sensitive and not liking to hear certain words is totally valid. I'm the most sensitive person you'll ever meet in your goddamn life. I will cry over anything. I get a little mad and I'm already crying. I get a little embarrassed, I'm already crying. I swear. I am very sensitive, but there's a difference. I don't take everything personally. You know, some things I do, obviously. But even those things I know I shouldn't. Sometimes you just have to know that it's not about you.
Neighbors to settle personal debt.
You are betraying an entire community of disabled
You
people
are literally
by
trying to
throwing them under a
collaborate with
bus while
fascists.
They are also going through the same thing. Seriously, you are doing so many of these things that you're complaining about, and I don't know
I'm
how to
not the
make
one
you
who
see
just
that, but you're
collaborated with
throwing-
fascists to try and get trans people deplatformed. Jesus.
You are essentially collaborating with people to make folks with specific disabilities feel lesser than and made fun of, when we are already suffering through our own version of genocide, of this medical neglect severely, people dying, medical rationing. You're making fun of these people and essentially telling your community they really care about this issue. That's stupid. These people who are going through the same experiences of trans people, which is why I say,
What
I'm
issue
disabled,
am I
I'm
telling them to make
trans.
fun of?
To start disabled people in general, other people with autism who take these things seriously and use these things, it's not
Receipts. Like, at this point, you have to produce receipts. You have to.
just breaking down arguments or showing inconsistencies. You're sending people to troll and act like these people are lesser, are nonsensical, are, I mean, again, I guess for lack of a better word, I'm failing here, are dumb. And that's because that's
I just like can't believe it. It's like, you know, instead of having a dialogue about this, like you're saying that I'm harmful for the trans community, but you
There can't be dialogue under this. Like, without providing information, this is just useless. Like, if you don't want to fix it, provide information. If you don't want to fix it, well, go talk to a therapist to make you feel better about the fact that you're hurting. Like, you ask someone to stop doing something, they didn't. So that isn't a green light to abuse somebody. It's just not.
you are literally willing to collaborate with people who want to strip us of all of our rights because I said a word you don't like.
It's beyond just a word I don't like.
This
It's not as direct, it's not as easy to see, but when you use this kind of dehumanizing language towards disabled people, it allows for these continued things to go on. It makes people feel like it's normal.
Can
it
you
is
stop
okay.
acting like an authority for disabled people? We're both disabled here. Okay? You do not have to do the tender
Okay,
queer
fine
appeal
then.
to identity
Okay,
liberal
fine then.
impulse.
Have you had to deal with medical rationing because of the pandemic?
I had to deal with medical rationing because of the pandemic, yes.
Okay, explain your experiences then.
Explain my experiences. Not having
Yeah.
enough money to pay for both food and
Not even an ask, just a demand. Like, ugh. Just a demand.
and rent and my medication and having to like skip days.
Oh, I mean, that's fair. That's understandable.
Yeah.
I can't physically get parts for my wheelchair that I need to move around.
I mean, it's an excuse to... No, I can't say that. Sorry. I feel like this is the question was an excuse to talk more about their own lived experience. Like I just have a very hard time believing that this person's true interest is social justice. I think
I have problems being able to sometimes leave my home. Doctors that I need for vital medical care aren't even available to see me. And people don't care about these issues. A large majority of people don't.
True. They don't. Of course they don't.
We're being forced into closets. We are essentially being told, just go die. We're going through our own version of genocide. It's what's happening to disabled people right now. A return of the ugly laws where we can't even go outside and participate in society. And if you follow that logic, when we are belittling people with any other kind of disability, even as disabled people, we are normalizing that behavior in others. We're telling other people.
How much are the
fine.
wheelchair parts?
Thousands of dollars. My wheelchair had a crash, and these front wheels, I don't know if I'm going to get parts still for the next 6 months. I'm fortunate enough to have insurance. These wheels alone that just need replacing in the front part of my frame.
So wait, it's
can
covered?
Cost somewhere like $500. I'm lucky I have some solid insurance. I'm extremely fortunate in that regard.
So wait, it's covered with your insurance?
Well, that's part of the problem. It may be covered, but it's going to take months for approval. I'm still not even approved to get parts on a chair that I should not be using, but it's the only thing I have because the front of the frame is bent and it needs a full replacement. I'm going to take months to do that, and then I'm going to have to wait months for the part to even get here.
You
for someone to
appealed.
be able to show up and
You appealed to how much it costs when you don't even have to afford it. And no, I mean, I'm aware of
I'm
this.
not the only person running into these issues.
Okay.
I think if you would like to learn a lot about disability justice, truly, if there's anything
You're
that I
an
can get out of this
incredibly bad faith
conversation-
person, and I've learned literally nothing from.
She's been asking. She's been asking the whole time for information. If all you want is for someone to listen to your emotions and make you feel better, don't talk to the person who's using the R slur that you don't like. Tell them how it makes you feel and that it makes you feel bad and it makes other people feel bad and why you don't think they should use it, and then you move on with your life. That's hard. I get it. It's hard.
In this conversation,
Then
other than you're
if
willing
you-
to work with
if
fascists.
you do not want to take anything else from this conversation, and I would say the same.
No, I've already learned.
Do not want. Like, if you do not, like, again, so ableist. It's not that the tools weren't provided to her. It's not the information wasn't provided. She's the problem here, even though the situation set her up for failure. But she's the problem? No, that is, yeah. That is literally why our systems are ableist.
You're basically as bad as Elon Musk.
I would
Like,
check out
ideologically, I would
the
say you are more
content.
aligned with fascists than you are
I
with
would
the trans
check out
community.
The content of Amani Barber. She is a wonderful woman who does excellent discussions on these issues and how the ongoing pandemic
Okay.
and how people's
Okay.
continued mistreatment of disabled people leads to a lot of really bad real life consequences. Deaths.
Yes, I'm aware. I
Yeah.
do not need a disability justice to be explained to me. I'm very aware. I have a lot of friends that are disabled. I have a lot of
Does it-
people in this
then I
community
guess
that are disabled.
The only thing I can ask is, again,
Yes.
does it... You don't have to agree with everyone, but then does it matter to you that a large swath of those folks feel thrown under the bus by this behavior?
Hold on.
It doesn't bother you. Now they want emotion. This is what this whole thing has been. Don't you feel bad? Why don't you feel bad? You should feel bad. This is manipulation and abuse. I know I've used the A word a few too many times, but this is super disgusting.
Hold on. One in chat if you're disabled.
One in chat if you're... These are literally only among your fan base. I care about the disabled people in your fan base.
It looks like we got at least like 70 people.
What about people outside of that too? The people who feel thrown under the bus by these actions? Like, I mean, I assume that you believe we need like solidarity in our community
right,
to be able to fight these issues, right? I think that's the issue, is whether these things feel offensive.
No one is being excluded from her community. They have chosen to condemn and leave. So, you know, there's this both, this, it's way too reminiscent of both siding the left and right issue as well.
To you or not, whether it felt like harassment to you or not, whatever it is,
of course,
people are feeling like this is what is happening to them, and it's making it harder to form a movement. And you're someone that people look to as a leader.
Hold
you
on
have
a
this
second.
large following. You've done things.
I'm just getting a message from one of my chatters who is a black, deaf, blind, trans woman in a wheelchair, and she's saying that you need to stop speaking for her.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. I'll speak for other people then.
No, she wants you to stop speaking for all disabled people.
Okay, okay, wait. Deaf and blind?
Yes.
Not to be rude, but then how are they interacting?
I have no idea what to do with that. No idea at all. In their defense, I wouldn't either.
Stream?
Are they interacting with the stream? They have a braille writer, and they can use that to translate to keystrokes.
Wow, that's actually a really cool piece of technology.
Yeah.
I didn't
It's super cool. I think that kind of technology is super cool.
realize that existed. That's awesome. Though we can't always speak for everyone. That's not possible. But that is part of the problem here.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way to make everyone agree with us. And there are definitely times we can put aside issues we disagree with. As someone who had their information posted on Kiwi Farms and still does, because unfortunately people can still access it in their own ways, I was very happy to see actual attention being brought to this stuff. I got that. Capable of two thoughts at once, that even if I didn't always like the approach, that something net good was being attempted to be done. The problem here is people are feeling completely thrown under the bus.
No, I mean, I feel thrown under the bus by you, like, to be honest. Like, if you wanted me to be accountable, you wouldn't have tried to deplatform me. Like, that was like one of your first go-tos.
Accountability for you. Because I mean, this isn't the first complaint against you about doing these things. People tried to come to you in gentler ways. Even previously with some of the other things that have gone on with the original Kiwi Farms things, I said stuff that was far more polite about trying to be introspective and discussing things. A lot of people did. People tried to come in the most polite and kind ways possible, and were completely ignored. People have tried to explain things or give resources and been ignored. You make streams where you literally joke about, oh, I'm going to be held accountable because this is a joke. Because even if people are coming to you in good faith, it is assumed that it's a joke. How are people supposed to come to you in good faith? To be real, yeah, I'm annoyed that I had to deal with all of this nonsense and having a bunch of people in my DM.
Again, it's her fault. Again, like, really pay attention to the assigning of blame and fault.
In my messages,
I
death threats or not, this was a crappy part of my evening.
envy
I didn't
you,
want to have to
honestly.
deal with that.
I envy
See,
you.
if you don't like these things happening to you, why?
Oh, no. What happened to
why
you is like
send
a
it to
back
other
massage compared to what I deal with online. Like, it's insulting hearing you say that a handful of people just like...
She literally, I don't know if y'all even know anyone who's watching this. I don't know if you know who Keffals is. I assume you do, but she literally got cheesed around the world. Around the world. What? And she's not the one making it a competition at all. They are.
saying, please use tone indicators, I have autism, is the equivalent to having your life ruined.
I've repeatedly said that these are not the exact same things.
Right, but it's coming up in the same conversation. I just don't have any sympathy for that. When I know that you went so scorched earth, you tried to deplatform me, which has nothing to do with accountability. If I got deplatformed...
These kinds of smaller actions that you take, trying to do a psyop essentially to make fun of an entire community, it's not just me who's going to be affected by this. There are multiple people. It's not just me. I'm just someone who happens, even
you
with
said
my tiny platform,
in your argument,
to do this.
like they do to you. So you were equivocating these things. And I think that maybe you do not understand.
Yeah, there's a lot of equivocating going on here. Absolutely. Absolutely. And they don't realize it. They seem to have no idea at all.
And the scope difference you're talking about.
Having lived through both, I do not need lighter reminders of it in my current life. I don't get why, yes, maybe you get worse, but why you would want to send anything less to others anyway. Especially people who should theoretically be allies.
Would you like to give me like the total number of people that you blocked, and I can like go over them to see if they're even actually my fans? Because you said there were hundreds, but there were less than 200 of them, and most of them did not interact with anyone outside of my own community.
I did not keep a direct tally because why would I? I was busy just getting rid of everything. Because again, why? But because this isn't unfortunately the first time I've had to deal with this kind of crap. But yeah, I had to sit there and run a blockchain. I had to be annoyed for hours on end. It sucks.
Wait, what blockchain are you using that takes hours?
People after the blockchain went and saw that I had blocked people kept showing up, making new accounts. People who want to be trolls, who have been
So you're not even going to
troll
prove that it's
people.
my fans at this point. You're just saying anyone who trolled you when you decided to get involved in a very large discourse. And anytime there's any discourse...
When you put my name on your stream live, who else would have been coming to bother me?
You
that
tweeted on a
day?
public platform where public discourse occurs.
Yes, and then you put me in front of all of your fans. Who else would have been showing up?
Who else would have been showing up?
People would have been... Yeah, how many other people would have been coming to my random account?
How many other
me
people?
and using this exact kind of language that all of those other folks were using? Why would just other people randomly show up to do
Literally
that day?
anyone. Like, you don't think that I have people who hate me that just kind of follow me around or just like rock the boat?
They're not thinking about. They're not thinking about that stuff. They're not thinking about Keffals' experience at all.
Like, I've had this situation occur in the past, right? Like, if you'll hear me out on it. I've had a situation occur in the past where Kiwi Farms users pretended, they pretended to be my fans, and they went into the DMs of black trans women and said a whole bunch of racist shit. And it just, like, stoked the fire. And when I tried to, like, politely ask, can you please, like, send me the DMs? Because if I do not know what they said and who they are, I can't ban them. I can't get rid of them from the community. So it's like, keeping the community safe, that's not entirely on me. Like, other people need to help in that regard, because I can't ban anyone if I don't know who they are.
Unfortunately, at least in this case, as you're having people make fake accounts, I doubt there's going to be much accountability even if I sat down
Jesus.
and tried to pull up any name I could still find.
Okay, I mean, if you want to pretend that you have absolutely no responsibility, if someone said something egregious to you and you want me to ban them, I'm willing to. I've always had that policy, but I can't do it without you being willing to participate in that.
I think what I more want is to explain that just because things don't feel like they are on the level of hurt that you get, does not mean that they do not hurt others to the same severity.
I've heard no indication that is. I mean, I've heard no indication that that's what's going on here.
People have different mental health states.
Mm-hmm.
People are in different places. And something that can feel like light trolling and not that serious to one person can be devastating to another. Because again, I'm not saying that my whole life has been ruined.
Right?
I get that. It was an inconvenience of my evening, and yeah, I was annoyed. I'm not saying that I'm just gonna blow off that happened either. It feels like a line is
Saying ain't so.
crossed, and you essentially sent people to, if you don't want to call it harassment, whatever, but to troll me, and I've had to deal with that. And I don't want that starting again. It can seem like it's coming from a good and kinder community.
I don't think I did I
doesn't
actually,
always
because
stay
I
that
do
way.
not remember actually telling them, go harass this person. I'm pretty sure actually when you were on the stream, I said, do not harass this person.
I can't point out the VOD. It's deleted. I mean, you would be the only person who has access.
Right.
If you do, again, I can't pull that up. You pulled up my tweets, made the jokes, and then that's what sent people over. Even if you didn't directly say the words.
Like, so you were
"Hey, go
lying, but
harass this
I did
person,"
actually say that. I did say it because the VOD isn't deleted, it's privated. I did say that, and the reason that I phrased it in this way is because I wanted to see how you would react, and you reacted by gaslighting me.
How can you not see that by essentially, like, you don't need to literally say, hey, go harass this person, and just simply saying, hey, don't actually harass them. Come on, really? Are we going to be that disingenuous that you didn't know what would happen? That people would do this anyway? I mean, you literally did it. You modeled the behavior for them to come do this to me. You didn't think your
Come
fans
do
would
this
copy
to you because like 3 or 4 people said, please use tone indicators or something.
Again, it's more than 3 or 4
Just a Madden
people.
in.
I got private messages. Some of the accounts are gone now because, again, thankfully they were reported or whatever else. I have friends who are kind.
Right.
For some folks, they're not going to have as hardened of a heart when they get this minor trolling.
Hardened of a
dealt with it
heart?
before.
You are such a fucking pussy. You tried to get me deplatformed. You literally appealed to Elon Musk. You know the guy who bought Twitter because he wanted to get rid of penalties for dead naming and misgendering? You were literally like appealing to transphobes to deplatform a member of your own community. You're a piece of shit, and you should really think about your own actions and behaviors.
I mean, I could say the same to you.
No, you
You-
couldn't.
Yes, I can.
No,
take
you couldn't.
Actions that actively harm other queer
You
people.
literally work with people who want to
We all take actions that hurt other people. Like, we can't help it. It's just totally misdirected anger.
remove all of our rights, people who want us dead. You are willing to appeal to them if you think it will benefit you personally. Just over a personal
willing-
gripe.
You're willing to appeal to trolls and people who want to hate specific kinds of queer people. That is what you did here. But no matter what you think of a tender queer person or whatever your definition,
I love how
those
you
are
just
the
like ignore it.
specific
You
queer
ignore it. You're like,
people-
yes, I will work with fascists.
Those are the specific queer people that are the bad people.
At
You're
this point, I'm
doing-
not even convinced that you're queer. I'm convinced that you're some sort of right-wing op. Like, how could you work
And this
with
is the
Elon
pro-
Musk?
Any amount of people who bring about
Yes?
serious,
But you won't
kinds of
address it.
conversation.
Like, do you see how fucked up that is?
I am attempting to address it by showing how essentially you are doing similar things. If you want to criticize me for that, you need to look inward. People have tried to be kind
All
and
right,
explain
need to look inward. This is all, oh God, this is all language that's been co-opted by abusers towards people like us. We've heard this our whole lives, but this is just one person's lived experience, of course.
Fuck you, Jesus.
But I do love Keffals'
All right,
reaction
done.
here.
Hi, thank you so much for watching.
Keffals, I know you'll never see this, but I feel that you should have left in where you were like, ugh, because I don't know. I found it real powerful. I'm glad I watched it on Vosh's stream just because it was just a really very real moment, and it taught me something about being willing to kind of express frustration in front of other people. All right. Anyway, I hope you got something out of that, and I hope you have a good night. Bye.